This week we get up very, very early to sail to Arklow. All of our plans fail, even the backup plans, so we end up back at Kilmore Quay before setting off again the next day. I explain the bites on my head and how I reckon they'll be fine. They weren't. Finally we make it to Arklow and go to the sailing club for a few drinks.
It's 7:30 in the morning. We are on the go. I'm hoping we're moving around to Rosslare. We're just going to pick up a mooring buoy or anchor in Rosslare for the night, because the next passage is another 7 hours, and we figured we'd just break it up instead of going directly there. We have got all our sails out. We are sailing. You might hear a bit of a murmur of the engine, but we just got it on to recharge our battery because we were down quite low. So we're just going to have it on, adding a little bit of speed and just charging our battery. Probably a bit naughty. Oh, Dave's just turned it off. Oh, pop anchor. We're all good. He was doing some sort of testing, no idea what. Anyway, I am downstairs and just boiling the kettle to make a bit of porridge. We've got the deadly porridge pots. They're very controversial, I know. But they were a bit easier for just while we're on passage and having a bit of warm breakfast, because it is not too chilly out there, but it's got a bit of a morning chill to it still. But yeah, we'll see what happens with the day.
Instead of fighting it, really gonna brighten the night. I'm going to hell and back by doing that. Always gonna be alright. I'm on the edge, not falling.
So the engine's off now. Well, it's not putting any power in. Fully sailing. The wind picked up slightly as we were getting further along the east coast. I think the headland was probably protecting us a bit from the wind, so we've ended up reefing our jib. And we're doing like 6.7 plus knots, so fairly fast, which is good. We've got the tide with us, which we'd planned for. Not really sure what we're going to do when we turn around the end of the south coast to work our way up the east coast, because the wind is sort of coming from the east. Not quite the east, but that way. Anyway. So I think we may end up just motoring again, because it will be on our nose, and it's not actually that much further around to go, to be fair. So yeah, we should be there in a couple of hours.
I'm gonna be just fine, and I guess naturally you might find me 6 feet underground. And this time I know it's for
So we didn't just roll the head sail in because we're head to wind. Obviously we could have carried on, so we're currently heading directly north. We were heading directly east. We could have carried on sailing east for a while and then tacked and sailed straight into Rosslare Bay. But what I don't think either of us have mentioned is I was bitten a couple of times by some little critters in Kilmore Quay. So I've got a couple of big bite marks on my forehead. I've also got my glands swollen, and I'm just not feeling like being at sea today, let alone sailing. So I turned the corner a bit early to save some time. I didn't really feel like tacking and and messing about with ropes, so I rolled the head sail in and we're just motoring till we're done. But yeah, I don't think it's anything serious. I think it's just a couple of bites that I'll recover from in a day or two, but just not feeling it today. So but we had to get out of Kilmore Quay. We've been there 4 nights, and as I think I said in a previous video, there's like 2 pubs there, or 1 pub, 2 shops and a chandlery, so you see it all in the first day, and we had seen it all multiple times. We'd had the ice creams from the lovely ice cream parlour, we'd been to the pub, we'd been to the chandlery 4 times, because I had to fit dinghy wheels, and also I fitted an inverter so that I could do editing on a laptop without starting the generator, or without plugging into the power. So yeah, we had done everything and it was just time to leave. The weather, it was a bit windy and rainy yesterday. The weather today is fine, so sometimes you've just got to get on and do things. But it's only a 3-hour trip today, so we're going to motor up, pick up a mooring buoy, and then I will probably go straight back to bed, so that tomorrow when we go to Arklow I will hopefully be a bit fresher and maybe we'll get the sails up and do it a bit more properly. But yeah, otherwise Jude was right in everything she said. I hadn't told her that's why I rolled the sail away, but yeah, just me being not 100%.
Just got to the mooring buoys that we were heading for outside of Rosslare, and the conditions weren't great, so there was swell and waves all coming into where we would have been picked up, so we decided to just move on. We wouldn't have had much rest, it would have been pretty horrendous, so we figured any progress we could make towards Arklow would be positive anyway, so we're just gonna carry along on the coast and hopefully find somewhere that's a bit more protected in order to put down the anchor for the night, or we just end up carrying on, but we'll see, because the tide has now turned, so it's against us and we won't make as much progress as we did earlier.
So a quick update, all of our plans have failed today. Originally we were going to sail to, there's 3 mooring buoys just off of Rosslare town in the bay. We got there exactly to plan, pretty much, you know, the right timing and everything, but with the northeasterly wind it's just rough, and there's no way that we were gonna cope with a day like that, and we certainly wouldn't have got any rest overnight, so we decided against that. Then we thought, well, we'll carry on to Wexford, because that was at the top of the bay. It's 5 miles closer to Arklow, so that was the sort of plan B. But there's no information at all about the channel in there. We know that it's buoyed, we know that the buoys are lit, and we know that they move the buoys based on the silting of the harbour. But there's no information about how deep that channel is anywhere, so we didn't want to risk going in, because by this point we had to leave Kilmore Quay at high water to get the tide around the corner. So by the time we had failed to get the mooring buoys and carried on, we were approaching low water on a falling tide, and I didn't want to risk going over a sandbank on a falling tide, especially some of those bits have got drying heights on them, and the bits that don't would have had about half a metre, and we draw nearly 2 metres, so we scratched that idea. By this point an hour has gone by, so the tide was gradually turning southwards, which means Arklow was no longer a really viable option. It would have taken us 10 hours to get up there, even just motoring directly into the wind. It just would have taken the whole day, and that would have put us in probably about 10 p.m, an hour after dark. It's not the best lit harbour from my memory, and there's no reason for it to be. The town is up further than where you would go in and dock. the entrance is quite tricky. There's a harbour wall there that sort of skews off to one side. There can be shallow water. We weren't sure what the tide state would be when we finally got there. There's very strong tidal streams going in and out of there if you catch it at the wrong state of tide. So long story short, or long story long, I suppose I've just told it all to you, we didn't go to Arklow, and so we turned back and we called up Rosslare Harbour, because they do allow yachts to tie up on the fisherman's pontoon or the fisherman's quay when they're on passage just overnight, but apparently they've got lots of boat movements today, so there was no way that we were allowed on there. Personally, I think we were calling up at midday, and so obviously it's possible for us to get somewhere else, but the only viable place that we can get to is back to Kilmore Quay, so we've turned around and gone back to Kilmore Quay. I think if we'd have called up at 6 PM they might have been more accommodating, because it would have felt more of an emergency, but yeah, obviously that's fine. It's their job to manage the harbour, and I fully understand their decision. But we were told that there were lots of fishing boats going in and out, and there are no boats out here. We're basically the only boat, so who can say? We will try again tomorrow. Tomorrow's plan, instead of stopping off in that bay, we're just going to go straight up to Arklow. There's less wind tomorrow, so almost certainly we're going to be motoring the whole way, but if we go further out into the Irish Sea, we'll have 3 knots of tide with us, so hopefully it'll be a relatively shorter journey. I wish we'd have stayed out today rather than going in and trying to get the moorings, because the moorings, even if it hadn't been rough around the moorings, there were hundreds of pot markers and fish farms and stuff, so just on the approach it just felt really sketchy, like we were going to get another rope around the prop, so didn't feel comfortable with those at all, even though the harbour master at Kilmore said we wouldn't have to pay for those, and we love a free mooring, but not that much. So sun's coming back out, we're heading back to Kilmore Quay, should be there at about 3 o'clock, going and pay for one more night, then we're going to relax and go over our plans probably, and see what we're doing tomorrow.
Good morning, it's 5:30, and we're starting again. Hopefully this time we'll make it all the way to Arklow. So yesterday we weren't planning on going all the way, but we're now off a few hours earlier than what we left in order to get more of the tide, which should get us into Arklow for a good time. We've got a glorious sun, it's just rising. When we first got up there was a moon, obviously the moon, which was pink from the sun. It's very cool, nearly full, and now the sun's just rising and we need to currently look out for a lot of lots. Still on passage to Arklow, so we're doing about 7 knots of some tides pushing us along, which is good. Current ETAs would be around 12:30, which is sooner than we expected, and if we can make that, it means we get the tide with us the whole way, because that starts to turn around 1 PM. Well, by 1 PM it's completely turned. I think just before that it would start changing direction. So it'd be nice if we can manage that. We are currently following the ebb of the flow, so the highest point of it pushing us along, and the bit behind us has started to ease off now, but the bit in front of us is back at 3 knots, so hopefully if we can catch that up in time we might speed along a bit further. There's a couple of other boats out, we think they're doing the same track as us, and we should all be probably arriving at Arklow around the same time. But yeah, Dave's still not very well, which is annoying. I guess it's going to be one of those things that happen, like you can't just hide away when you're sick, and balancing, doing all boating things and properly sailing and whatnot when you're ill, contemplating a 12-hour passage if we weren't motoring, isn't really ideal in this situation, so we're doing what we can. We want to move on, so that location, although very lovely, we've done it to death. There wasn't enough around us, whereas unlike for food shopping, we'll run out of food soon and we need some bigger shops, because there was only a little spot. But yeah, we'll see how the next few hours go. We've had breakfast now, a prepped lunch, and we've got dinner made for worst case and nice and easy for the passage. So we're very prepared today for food wise compared to yesterday as well. Yesterday we had nothing really, no dinner prepped, so we wanted to keep on, but if had to cooked, and we don't know what the conditions have been like. But yeah, keep you updated. We've arrived in Arklow now. We had a bit of a rocky entrance, so the wind was pushing us in, creating a bit of waves because the tide was going out. But we made it in safely, managed to get all our fenders and stuff out before we got to the pontoon, and then we had a space in the middle of the pontoon that we needed to get to. Luckily there were a couple of guys off a different boat that we'd met the night before and done sailed the way, I think earlier I explained that we were going with a couple of other boats. They took our lines and we got on safely and all tied up. We then went and had a shore shower, so we haven't actually had a shower on land for about 3 weeks. That's not to say we haven't showered. We've obviously used the boat shower and we can fully shower with that. It just, we use less water, so we're not as carefree over it, and I think it's just the luxuriousness of having a shower on shore is something that you won't quite realise unless you're boaters. But now we've just come into the town. We've had a bit of a wander through the main area, saw there's like a shopping centre which filled me with a little bit of joy for a while.
Yeah, we've not seen much civilization on the south coast of Ireland for a while, other than our trip to Wexford. So a shopping centre is a bit of a treat, I guess. We didn't really buy anything, but
No. To be fair, I think even in England we haven't had a shopping centre like that for quite a while either.
That's true.
Yeah. But yeah, so we're now going to walk back to the boat.
We've been told it's club night
Yeah.
at the sailing club, and they've invited us into the
yacht
sail
club.
club for drinks later. Last time I was here I did that, and I don't remember much after that, so we're not sure whether we'll take them up on it this time, but
No. But they're also racing, so maybe we'll go and have a look at that if we can get
yeah,
to the
it's
coast.
Wednesday night racing.
And maybe film a bit of that if we can. But yeah, well, that's about it, isn't it?
I think so, yeah, just tired after
Yeah.
a couple of long days at sea. Yesterday we didn't even go anywhere, we just had the longest day sail of history.
But we hit all the tides perfectly.
Yeah, today's one worked out really well as well. It was a single tide from Kilmore Quay. You leave very early, 3 hours after high water at Kilmore, and then you get a very slight push. You're mostly in the slack water along the south coast, and then as you turn up the tide really starts to flow, and we were doing 7 or 8 knots for a couple of hours, and we've got a very dirty bottom on the boat, so that was pretty good. And then just the last hour or so we were into the tide again, but we were still maintaining 4.5 knots at the end, so yeah, pretty good journey.
Yeah, but we're going to be here at least 2 nights, and then we're not really sure what our plans are, so we'll work them out and keep you informed. We didn't quite make it round for the actual racing to have a look from the beach because we were quite tired, or from the wall, but here's some boats coming back in.